You look in the mirror. You see something totally ordinary, but nature sees a freak. To the rest of the primate world and every apex predator on the planet, you look like a terrifying, glowing mutant. This alien appearance comes down to one highly specific anatomical detail: the white of your eye. Scientists call this the sclera. In almost every other animal, this area is completely dark. Think about a hunting lion on the African savanna. The lion relies on absolute stealth to survive. It cannot broadcast its intentions. If the prey sees exactly where the predator is looking, the ambush is instantly ruined. This strict biological rule applies to primates too. Gorillas have heavily pigmented sclera. Chimpanzees hide their gaze perfectly. In the brutal, unforgiving reality of the ancient wild, showing your eyes is incredibly dangerous. It gives away your position. It is a massive target. It tells the enemy exactly what you are planning. Evolution usually eliminates bizarre traits that make you a highly visible target to hungry apex predators. But your ancestors brilliantly engineered this massive biological liability into a survival weapon. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, a random genetic mutation stripped the dark pigment from the eyes of your ancestors. Under normal circumstances, natural selection would aggressively punish this mutation. It breaks the first rule. It is the biological equivalent of painting a stealth bomber bright pink. When you are hiding in the dark, white sclera act like glowing headlights. They invite every nocturnal predator directly to your location. Yet, this incredibly dangerous trait rapidly spread through the entire human population. It became completely universal. Biologists call this the cooperative eye hypothesis. It states that early humans deliberately traded camouflage for communication. We refused to hide. We wanted our tribe to see exactly where we were looking. When animals try to figure out what another animal is thinking, they watch the direction of the head. But human infants are biologically wired to completely ignore the head and instantly track the high-contrast movement of the eyes. But why take that lethal risk? Because for the vast majority of human history, you were at a severe physical disadvantage in the wild. You were not the strongest. You lacked lethal fangs. You had no sharp claws. Your only survival strategy was perfect teamwork. You operated as one mind. To survive the chaos of the prehistoric landscape, your ancestors engineered a silent biological communication network. And the blaring white sclera was the ultimate transmitter. Because early humans lacked the sheer muscle mass to wrestle a massive prehistoric beast to the ground, they had to rely entirely on an invisible web of synchronized movements to survive the daily slaughter. You didn't evolve these glowing white targets to look pretty. You evolved them to become the most dangerous, highly coordinated monster on the savannah. But how exactly does an eye become a lethal weapon? Imagine trying to coordinate a successful ambush on a 2-ton, panicking mammoth. Now, try doing it without making a single sound. In the modern world, complex teamwork requires constant, loud vocalization. You shout commands, you type long messages, you use sound to bridge the gap between minds. But in the lethal silence of the prehistoric wilderness, making noise is biological suicide. Sound travels fast. It alerts the prey. It attracts hungry apex predators. A single spoken word can destroy weeks of starvation-level stalking. If your ancestors wanted to trap a massive, heavily armored herbivore, they had to move perfectly in sync. They had to signal complex flanking maneuvers. They had to warn each other of sudden danger. They had to coordinate the exact microsecond to strike, and they had to do it all with total, terrifying silence. This is exactly where the high-contrast white sclera became a revolutionary piece of biological technology. The brilliant white background acts as a highly visible biological canvas. It perfectly frames the dark, moving iris. This stark, visual contrast allows anyone standing within 50 feet to track the exact micro-movements of your gaze. You are essentially performing complex tactical geometry with your eyeballs. When one hunter slightly shifted his eyes toward a dangerous thicket, the entire hunting party instantly understood the threat without a single grunt or whistle. They bypassed vocal cords entirely to transmit critical survival data directly from brain to brain. They created an invisible, silent network of shared intention across the hunting ground. No words were spoken, no twigs were snapped. Just a deadly, perfectly synchronized hive mind. To process this rapid, silent visual data, your ancestors' brains evolved incredibly specialized neural pathways dedicated entirely to rapid eye tracking. It operated exactly like a prehistoric heads-up display. Your brain was engineered to instantly calculate the exact angle of another person's gaze. It subconsciously computes the trajectory of their vision and projects exactly what they are looking at in three-dimensional space. If an elder's eyes darted downward to a hidden snake, you knew instantly to freeze your foot mid-step. If the lad hunter's eyes widened and locked onto a vulnerable flank, the entire tribe knew instantly it was time to throw their weapons. To wild animals, this level of silent, highly coordinated pack movement was completely unnatural and utterly terrifying. A pack of tiny, naked primates moving and trapping massive beasts in perfect, deadly synchrony without making a single vocalization was the terrifying mark of a hyper-intelligent apex predator. While every other predator on the savanna relied on chaotic, noisy pack tactics or sheer brute strength, humans operated like a silent, highly trained military unit. This silent biological weapon made us the undisputed rulers of the entire planet. It allowed a physically weak species to conquer the very top of the harsh prehistoric food chain. It neutralized every major prehistoric threat. But this invisible eye-tracking network didn't just stay on the bloody hunting ground. It infiltrated our brains and permanently mutated how we felt about each other. Why is it that a baby will lock eyes with you across a crowded room, completely ignoring everything else? You have seen this happen. They ignore the loud toys. They ignore the flashing screens. Instead, their tiny infant brains instantly scan the chaos of the environment and lock directly onto the highly visible white sclera of your eyes. This is not a cute coincidence. It is a deeply ingrained biological reflex programmed into your hardware. Because once your ancient ancestors developed a silent eye-tracking network for hunting, this biological weapon proved to be far too powerful to be used exclusively for killing. It became the ultimate engine for mandatory empathy. Think about the brutal reality of prehistoric social dynamics. In a wandering tribe of exactly 150 people, survival required absolute trust. There was no solitary survival. If you were exiled, you died. If someone selfishly hoarded vital winter rations or completely abandoned their post during a brutal nocturnal predator attack, you needed a way to instantly identify the traitor before the entire tribe starved to death. The visible gaze forced humans to literally read each other's minds. The muscles surrounding your eyes are directly wired to the emotional centers of your brain. They are entirely involuntary. You cannot consciously control them. Even if a traitor's mouth was smiling politely, you could instantly read the micro-expressions of their eyes. You could track rapid, nervous eye twitches. You could measure the exact dilation of their pupils in the dark. You could accurately measure fear, guilt, and deception just by analyzing the tiny biological movements surrounding the sclera. Our eyes became our primary lie detectors. They acted as massive emotional barometers that bound the entire tribe together into one cohesive unit. When you saw a pure terror flash in the white eyes of a fellow tribesman, your brain instantly flooded your own body with massive spikes of adrenaline. You literally felt their fear. There were no emotional walls. This involuntary biological syncing created a level of hyper-cooperation that no other species on Earth could ever hope to replicate. It cemented the prehistoric tribe into an unbreakable fortress of mutual understanding. Other primate species simply do not possess this highly specialized empathic hardware. A chimpanzee can easily deceive another chimpanzee because its dark eyes perfectly camouflage its guilt. But an ancient human could not lie to another human without their eyes frantically betraying the truth. This is the exact reason why modern humans desperately crave deep, unbroken eye contact to feel loved and understood. It is our emotional engine. When you lock eyes with someone you truly trust, your brain instantly releases a massive flood of oxytocin. Your biology actively rewards you for maintaining the connection. For 200,000 years, reading the whites of someone's eyes was our absolute, non-negotiable survival software. It was the only way we knew who to love, who to trust, and who to fear. But in the last microscopic fraction of human history, we decided to completely unplug the server. We turned it all off. We are currently talking more than at any point in human history. You send hundreds of text messages, emails, and direct messages every single week. Yet, we have never felt more completely isolated, violently angry, and fundamentally misunderstood. This is not a psychological failing. It is a massive biological crisis. Your brain was completely engineered to navigate complex social dynamics, using only the highly visible micro-expressions of the white sclera. Modern digital communication completely strips away every single piece of this vital evolutionary data. There are no eyes. There is no pupil dilation. There are no micro-expressions. When you receive a vague text message from your boss or a friend, your ancient hardware desperately scans the digital environment for visual empathy cues and finds absolutely nothing. You cannot read their intentions. Your brain instantly panics, because to your prehistoric ancestors, an invisible entity that refused to show its eyes was never considered a friendly member of the tribe. It was always a predator. It was a lethal threat. This is exactly why a simple, poorly punctuated email can instantly ruin your entire day. Your body perceives the lack of visual emotional data as a literal ambush. It floods your system with stress hormones and triggers a massive fight or flight response. Modern social media platforms were accidentally designed to exploit this exact biological blind spot. When you scroll through a feed of isolated opinions, your brain desperately searches for the accompanying facial microexpressions. It needs the sclera to tell it if the person is joking, terrified, or genuinely aggressive. Without the visual context of the eyes, the brain always assumes the absolute worst-case scenario. It defaults to maximum defensive hostility. We do not give people the benefit of the doubt. We aggressively attack strangers over minor disagreements because our empathy engine has been completely starved of its fuel. We are navigating an endless ocean of digital communication without our primary evolutionary tool for threat detection. This is the hidden cost of our modern technological comfort. When we cannot see the whites of a stranger's eyes on the internet, our mandatory empathy engine completely shuts down, and we revert to absolute tribal warfare. We stop seeing human beings, we only see faceless monsters. Living in this constant state of digital blindness takes a devastating physical toll on your body. For your prehistoric ancestors, the acute stress of an unreadable predator only lasted a few terrifying minutes. The threat was resolved quickly, but you are trapped in a perpetual, never-ending state of low-grade biological panic. Your nervous system cannot properly rest. You are biologically starving for a level of visual connection that a screen can never provide. Your nervous system is exhausted. Text cannot fix it. Emojis cannot replace it. Your ancient biology demands the raw, unfiltered truth of the human gaze. The next time you feel a massive spike of anxiety during a text argument, put the digital device completely out of sight. Go find a physical member of your tribe. Look directly into the whites of their eyes. Let your ancient survival hardware do exactly what it was brilliantly engineered to do. Because right now, you are walking around with the magnificent, highly empathetic hardware of a psychic apex predator, desperately trying to survive on the pathetic, isolated software of a digital text message.